to order today is Thursday, January 16th. It is 3:35 p.m. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. We do have a rather abbreviated or desire to run through our meeting quickly today because we're on a different day of the month this month in the room, and so we need to be finished with our meeting by 4:45. So we'll run through things quickly, and if we have any major discussion on stuff, we'll put that into committee to talk about in future meetings. We'll go through introductions really quick. We'll start on my left.
Christian Daniels.
Latanya Williams.
Jennifer Truman.
Mark Teague.
Byron Leak.
Thanks, y'all. Do I have, we have the minutes from November, I believe? October and November. So if you guys have any edits, let us know, or I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Minutes are approved. Do we have any revisions or additions to this agenda for today? I think I just had one.
We do need to add the conversation about the picking a date for the retreat.
Okay.
Hopefully sometime in February.
All right, I think we'll put that up front, if that's all right. I believe you guys emailed out some dates to everybody. So the retreat is something we try to do annually to make sure we're all on the same page on work plan and items that we're prioritizing as a body. So it looks like we're looking at doing them on the committee days in February on the 4th, 5th, or 6th. I think we'd extend a committee meeting time to be kind of all afternoon or all day. Was that the case?
Yeah, typically the retreat runs from 9:30, kind of as a initial start showing up time. We'll have coffee and light snacks, and then finishing up by 4:30. I think we also had the actual transit authority date on there as well, which would be February 13th.
Does anyone have any comments or major I'm going to be out of towns?
The 4th would be most convenient for my schedule right now.
We have one thought for the 4th. I'm fine with the 4th. We're the ones here, so we get to decide. The 4th of February for an all-day retreat. Okay.
Actually, let me,
Uh-oh.
that's a city council meeting day, and I know we're going to have items, so I may have added that here at the table when we shouldn't have.
Okay.
So my apologies for that.
So what about the 5th or 6th?
I'm good with the 6th. Is that a Thursday?
Yes, the 6th is Thursday.
What time is the?
We'll go from about 9:30 to about 4. We'll send out an official agenda for folks.
The 5th? I'm good with the 5th, Wednesday.
Okay, so I'm going to say that we're going to go with Wednesday the 5th. If anyone has any glaring objections to that, you can let us know within the next 24 hours.
You said the 6th. Are you free the 5th or the 6th?
Wednesday the 5th.
I can make myself available.
Best availability.
Okay.
What did Mark say?
Any difference for anyone else?
Not me.
Okay. We're going to say Wednesday the 5th, and we'll follow up with an email just to make sure that the folks that were absent from today's meeting have a chance to let us know of any conflicts. Does that work for you, Mr. Walker?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Then I think we can head into the next item on the agenda, which is the bus plan update community engagement.
Yes, we have Mr. Ben Howell from Campo, our regional MPO, here to do a quick presentation.
Good afternoon. So I'm the Wake Transit Program Manager for Campo, and as you hopefully know, Campo is overseeing the Wake Transit Plan update. So I'm here today to give you a little bit of an update on that process and on the engagement period that's currently underway. So first I'll go through the state of the plan, which was we did an engagement period on that last year during the summertime. We'll talk about what's going on right now, which is phase 2 of public engagement, and then provide you some next steps. So as you hopefully know, Wake Transit Plan is a revenue stream for public transportation investment that was approved by voters. The referendum itself was approved by voters in 2016 for the new sales tax. And the plan itself started funding new transit service in August of 2017. And the Wake Transit Plan itself has been set up to be updated every 4 years. So this is the second update process that we've gone through. And during each update, we go out to the community and stakeholders to find out about their preferences and priorities and use financial and technical data about performance to develop outcomes and the proposed investments for the next 10-year period. The Wake Transit Plan is made up of 4 big moves: connect regionally, connect all Wake County communities, create frequent, reliable urban mobility, and enhance access to transit. You can see on the screen the different things that fall under those 4 big moves, but those are our 4 pillars that are not changing. So as far as the plan to date, the revenues for the plan has been consistently strong. Since 2017, we've raised nearly $750 million, and we expect to raise another $700 million to $1 billion over the next 10 years of the plan. And so we went out in the first phase to ask what the transit priorities are of the community for the next 10 years. We provide information about how much has been invested since 2017, so over $200 million has been invested to date. You can see there on the screen where it's been invested, with a majority of the funding being invested in more transit service, and that was one of the big pillars that we pushed when the transit plan was initially developed and adopted, was to get service on the street as quickly as possible. We expect to spend about $350 million over the next few years, funding major projects including the BRT routes in Raleigh, the Go Raleigh, Go Wake Access ADA Maintenance Facility and Call Center, Cary Multimodal Center, and the Rust Bus facility that's currently under construction, as well as several other projects. For phase 2 engagement, we're really looking at sharing. We've been sharing how Wake Transit will invest in rail between FY 26 and 35. If you remember, in the original Wake Transit plan, one of the major investments that has been planned for has been this commuter rail project. And 2 feasibility studies have been completed on that project in planning lots of investment, but no work really other than the studies have been done on this commuter rail to date. And what we have found out through the feasibility studies is that it's really not a very feasible project based on estimated cost and working on it. So we have presented trade-offs between regional capital investments and local frequency investments, and are also sharing a BRT connection concept between Durham and Raleigh that would really replace the commuter rail, and illustrating how Wake Transit is delivering on promises. I will say, while we are looking at likely removing commuter rail from the 10-year plan itself, it will not be removed from regional plans at this time. And so there may still be commuter rail in the future. It just will be outside of the 10-year horizon of the transit plan. So as you can see on the screen, we developed a multitude of materials and have shared them in different ways, going out to public events. We've had several focus groups, and we've been having a fairly robust digital engagement as well. And we have been asking our partners to identify and coordinate locations and dates, which they've done. We held most of our pop-ups were held in December before the holidays, although we have held a few more over the last couple weeks. And then we've been sharing information with public and stakeholders and asking them to participate in the survey. So again, the goals of the engagement have been to really share information about the rail investments that we're planning between FY '26 and '35, and really ultimately get the public's agreement, consent to move away from the commuter rail vision and move towards what we're calling a regional rail vision. And part of that vision is looking at developing a new BRT concept to connect Raleigh and Durham through the I-40 corridor. And we're also asking for feedback on that, as well as asking folks what projects they would like to see completed first, what to focus on, investing in service frequency to serve more people, or investing in regional connections and infrastructure to serve more places. And we've also been sharing more information about ongoing Wake Transit Plan projects and investments. This feedback will ultimately shape the direction for the next 10 years of the Wake Transit Plan. So as I mentioned a little bit before, our strategy has been using online methods, in-person methods, focus groups, and presentations like this to air it to municipal and municipal governing boards and groups like yourself. So just a update on the timeline. So we launched engagement December 2nd. We had fairly substantial engagement between December 2nd and December 20th. Took a little break over the holiday, just keeping to digital engagement, and now we are have gone back into the more substantial engagement through the end of this month when this phase ends. So these next 4 slides are the boards and the information we've been sharing with the public and asking them to react to and provide feedback on. So this first board is really about the rail service, explaining that, in the past, we've been told that rail service is important. Ultimately, it's been determined that commuter rail may not be the most feasible way of providing rail service through our area, but there are a lot of rail projects, and there is rail service currently in the area that could be invested in by Wake Transit that could help us get to an ultimate vision of commuter rail, or even act as a commuter type service, depending on the level of investment. We have this board where we talk about the new concept of the bus rapid transit along I-40 that would connect Raleigh to Durham. It would serve the airport, and it would also serve the regional transit center, and then go into Durham. And we provide some comparisons on express bus service versus BRT, including how long it could take to implement it and the type of service that could be done. Next, the next question we asked was, the question of serving more people versus serving more places. Serving more people would be expanding bus service in Cary and here in Raleigh, expanding on the frequent bus network, while serving more places would be looking at additional capital investment throughout Wake County and some of the outlying communities, building some mobility hubs in the outlying communities, and providing more connections from those outlying communities to Cary, Raleigh, and other regional destinations, as well as between the outlying communities. And then finally, we have this board that just is a summary of what we've been doing and what we're continuing to do. Again, focused around the 4 big moves, looking at the investments that we have planned, both in the new plan and then that we've been investing in throughout. So some early findings from the public engagement as of Wednesday of this week. We've had over 2,500 views of the website and over 315 survey participants. You can see there sort of the breakdown of responses by demographics, and what we found so far is 70% of the respondents agree with the approach on the rail service and agree with the approach on BRT, and over 50%, I think it's about 55%, agree with the idea of serving more people first. So just some additional information about some of the featured elements for bus rapid transit, which you're well aware of. We have four lines currently planned, plus 2 extensions to the west and to the east. And then one of the things we're looking at for the plan update is to include the proposed split of the northern corridor to the Midtown corridor and the Triangle Town Center corridor, as well as creating this new I-40 corridor BRT service. Sorry about how that ended up. But the next, we're continuing to invest in service frequency and span. Again, continuing to expand the length of time the buses are on the road and expand the frequent network. By 2030, we estimate Wake County will have 14 frequent bus service with over 122 miles of frequent service, and that would be operating roughly 17 hours a day at 15 minutes or better. The one idea that we're introducing with this new plan is mobility hubs, where people can find and transfer to different types of transportation, such as car share, bike share, bus, Uber, Lyft, taxi. It would allow local services to connect with regional services, and they, of course, services that would be available would vary by location. Raleigh Union Bus Station is one such mobility hub that's currently under construction in Raleigh. And the Triangle Mobility Hub is also funded and planned to open by 2030, which would be the replacement to the Regional Transit Center for Go Triangle up in the Research Triangle Park area. So commuter and passenger rail. So commuter rail, we just want to make sure everyone's aware of what it is. It would connect suburban communities to employment centers operated by transit agencies, typically weekdays and sometimes on weekends, generally relatively limited service and not very frequent. It's been identified in the original Wake Transit Plan in the first update, but feasibility studies have shown that it's too expensive and will take too long to implement. So what we are sort of introducing with this plan update is changing our focus to regional rail or intercity passenger rail. Again, looking at potentially coordinating with Amtrak, maybe providing additional funds to improve Amtrak service throughout the area, and also work on potentially provide funding for infrastructure improvements for the train service to, again, improve the existing train service through the area. With this plan update, one of the other things we're looking at is bringing in what they call the S-Line corridor that NCDOT has been working on, which goes up to Wake Forest and further north. DOT currently has funding and is planning to implement a train service that would go up to Wake Forest, I believe, in the next 5 to 10 years. They received federal grant for that. So with the Wake Transit Plan, we're recognizing that, bringing that into the plan, and potentially allowing for Wake Transit funds to contribute to that service or to infrastructure improvements for that service. And then we also talk about improving infrastructure and access, which can impact the decision to use transit. So we have been investing, we'll continue to invest in infrastructure with purchasing and retrofitting of buses, improving bus stops and transit centers, purchasing clean fuel vehicles. We have so far leveraged approximately $30 million in Wake Transit funds to get over $133 million in federal funds, and we do anticipate that will continue. We're also introducing, for Wake Transit, a new idea of safe access to transit, and with some focus on crosswalks, ADA accessibility, and continuous connecting sidewalks to ensure that people can not only have nice bus stops to stand at, but they can get to those bus stops without being in a vehicle. And then finally, another piece of the Wake Transit Plan puzzle is what we call the community funding area, which provides funding for eligible projects in 10 municipalities and Research Triangle Park outside of Raleigh and Cary. This program funds both planning technical assistance projects as well as operating or capital projects. So far, it has funded about, I think, 3 operating projects throughout the county and numerous capital projects. And so with this plan update, one of the things we're looking at is increasing the funding for this program from approximately $19.59 million to around $40 million over the next 10 years. So next steps, we encourage everyone to visit the website, review the material, and fill out the survey. The website is there on the screen. It's publicinput.com/Wake Transit 2035. It doesn't take but a few minutes to provide feedback, but it is very important that we get this feedback because it's going to help craft our investment strategy for the next 10 years. So just overall schedule of the plan, we started working last year around last January, February. we're continuing to work, and we anticipate that the transit plan will be wrapped up, and we'll have a final draft transit plan to move into the adoption process by July of this year. And just next steps over the course of this year, the community engagement period's open through through the end of January. Then we'll have a partner staff workshop in late January. We'll have additional partner staff meetings in February. We will hold a stakeholder advisory committee in late February where we'll really be focusing in on the recommendations and have those stakeholders help us draft the final recommendations that'll go in the plan. And then our goal is to have the draft Wake Transit plan drafted by mid-March in time for an engagement period in May of this year, and then have everything finalized by the end of June to begin going into the adoption process after that time. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know that was very quick, but I wanted to make sure to give you as much time as possible for your meeting, so.
Definitely appreciate you running through things quickly with our short meeting today. I think we've seen some of this information before, so I'll ask if anyone at the table has questions or feedback. I only had one clarifying question. When you started to talk about the initial reporting, you, on that slide, shared that there was support for the rail direction and support for the BRT direction. Is that for the new ideas for BRT on I-40, or is that for like the existing BRT
For
programs?
the new BRT concept on I-40.
Okay.
That's what we've really been focusing on, really asking folks, are you okay with moving away from a dedicated commuter rail project to investing in regional rail? And we've still got to figure out what that means, but are you okay with that for the rail investment? And then since we won't have this dedicated commuter rail project, are you okay instead with looking at a BRT service along I-40 that would really replace the commuter rail, serve the same communities, but be more or less a replacement for that, that could still provide the same level or even better service than the commuter rail would have provided?
Okay. That's helpful. There's so many BRT projects now. It's helpful to know which one we're talking about at any given time when we're asking. Any other questions?
You mentioned what you just mentioned, but I didn't see that as part of one of the input questions, getting feedback. So it'll be great when you, probably going forward, when you ask these impact questions from the community, probably give a little more detail, because like the responses back is like, do you want commuter rail or do you want BRT? Actually, the people probably want both. So like.
And we wanted to be very cautious with giving when we crafted everything, we want to be very cautious about, not saying commuter rail is completely off the table, it's never going to happen. Because it may still happen. And so that's where these two boards that I went through, and I did go through them fast, but this is where we're asking really for that input of, one, we have existing rail service today that's fairly decent, not great, but it's decent. We can do some more investment and potentially make it better, potentially provide more frequency on it, instead of spending upwards of $2 or $3 billion on a commuter rail service that may still not ever be able to be put in place. And so we're asking, really, are you okay with that approach, that change in direction? And then on the BRT for I-40, really we wanted to get information on, how often do folks travel between Raleigh and Durham, and because that was the whole, one of the big ideas behind the original commuter rail was bringing folks from the outlying areas, but also really providing that connection between Raleigh and Durham. If that's still a major travel demand, we can do the same with BRT along I-40. And then do you think BRT is a good way to connect the Raleigh and Durham and provide service to the airport and some of these other locations? So it is a little bit different way of asking the question and getting the feedback, but it does provide us insight into what the community sees as their priorities and really where they want to go with transit.
Thank you.
Thanks. I think we don't have time today to give you all of our many thoughts about this, but luckily we, as the authority, get lots more chances to tell you. So I will encourage everyone to go to the survey and provide as long a written response about as many nuanced things as you would like to hear.
Yes, please do.
And then I know at least LaTanya and I will be at the stakeholder meeting in February.
Okay,
so
great.
we'll talk to the rest of the board and convey any ideas there.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It is 4:00 now. That was perfect timing. Do we have any public comment?
No, we do not.
Okay. Without, just double checking, no public comment in the room? Okay. So we'll keep rolling through then and staff informations. Next up is marketing and engagement.
Hi, my name is Andrea Epstein with Transit Division Communications, and I briefly wanted to go over what the entire team has done this past year, 2024, for community engagement. Our team includes, that we're discussing right now for community engagement, includes BRT, fixed route, and communications and TDM. So the events that we cover throughout the year include Touch a Truck, open houses, bus ride-alongs, CAC engagements, school visits, business partnerships, park and recreation summits, COCs, and some other activities. But that covers a big majority of the outreach events that we do. So this past year, we wanted to show off the numbers that the team has worked this year. They did an awesome job. We attended or hosted 76 events in 2024, which is more than one event a week that we were out in the community. The number of residents we interacted with was over 10,000, and staff hours was a little over 420, so over 10 weeks of community engagement from the whole team combined. And we have a couple nice little graphs to show you. So this is our interaction based monthly on how many people we interacted with. April gets very busy with Touch a Truck. We have about 3 of those in April, but you can see throughout the year there is engagement in the winter months are a little less so just due to the weather and being outdoors and tabling, et cetera. And then by staff hours, you can see how many hours we worked throughout the year for events. So again, a total of 76 events for the whole year with the team behind me had all worked and again reached out to over 10,000 residents. So I think they did an awesome job. A lot of hard work on that end. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you for everything you're doing. Yes, sir.
And Andrea started tracking this last year, and at the end of this year, she sent out a spreadsheet to just a small handful of folks in our office, and I said, you need to celebrate that. So thank you, Andrea, and to your team for putting that slide deck together, and thanks to all of you for all the hard work you've done over the last year. I've been at a few of those events, but the folks you see over here on the right have done most of that. So it's a big lift, and they do a lot of work, and they care about what they're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to similarly say I've been to only a few of those events and always see people really excited to talk to you guys about all the bus and transit stuff that we have going on. So thank you for everything. I'm going to just keep things rolling. The next information item is a BRT update. Thanks for sharing, Het.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Het Patel, Transit BRT team. I do not have a presentation today. I presented in November with our status for the New Bern Avenue project as well as our ratings update on the Western Corridor. Today, I'm really here in front of you just as a discussion item to update you all on our direction for the New Bern Avenue project. On January 7th, City Council rejected the single bid that we had received for New Bern Avenue construction, and that was due to that large overage in the budget from the project, and so that was about 60% over the engineer's estimate, and we presented that to you guys in November. The next steps for the New Bern Avenue project really are to continue our coordination with the contractor community. So we are holding an industry day at the end of this month on January 27th. So that's an invite to the contractor community to come in, provide feedback to our approach. Our new approach here is breaking out the project in terms of scope and geographic locations to try to make packages that are more competitive for the contractor community to participate in. And so we will be looking for feedback from the contractor community on those breakdowns. And then the anticipated timeline would be bids subsequently in the spring of 2025. We can certainly provide another update once we've had the industry day, as well as we've provided our kind of next steps to council as well.
Do folks have questions?
I have one. So is this the bid just for the New Bern corridor?
The bid was just for the New Bern corridor, that's correct.
So how are we, I guess, projecting for the western corridor? Like, how are we handling this based off what we're seeing today with bids, no bids, bids being rejected? Like, how are we handling future bids?
Yeah, so again, what we're going through on New Bern will be a learning process, but each project is going to be different. Each project has a different budget and cost. So again, what we've heard on New Bern was potentially that this was a pocket-sized project where the local resources did not have enough to commit to how big the project was. Maybe state and regional contractors was not big enough for them to participate in. The southern corridor is significantly more in a cost, as well as the western corridor is significantly more in cost as well. And so we will hopefully see more participation in those, and we will be doing industry days leading up to those projects as well. The current timeline for those projects is really to focus in on our federal process and make sure we get our construction grant agreements in place and get the project to the construction point, and then we can, investigate based on what we've learned from New Bern, what makes the most sense to break up the project from an advertisement perspective if we need to do that, if we get the sense that the contractor community is going to be more competitive if we were to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing the updates today. I think it's hard to capture the full picture of all the technicalities that go into the engineering and the construction estimates in the short things we see in the news. And so having a chance to hear more in depth, like what happened and what we're doing for the next bid cycle to be different, I think is useful, not just for us as a body, but for the folks that are listening or watching this later online. And so that said, I guess one of the things we talked about the last time that we put this back out to bid was just the timeline that we're giving contractors and whether it's meeting the kind of industry expectation for, the Triangle's a very busy place with lots of projects, and North Carolina the same. So I think just flagging that as something to keep in mind as your industry day is making sure that not only are we expecting scopes that are in line with what the industry expects, but timelines to reply.
Certainly, we do have a question on the 27th that will be re-asking the contractor community about the schedule for New Bern. We had identified it as a 24-month schedule, which would have been a 2-year construction window based on the construction quantities and the consultant estimate that we had. We heard from the contractor community that would be closer to 4 years. Second advertisement was 3.5-year construction schedule. So we'll continue to modify that as needed. I think from the city's perspective, we were also trying to be mindful of disruption to the community from a construction window perspective. Again, I think there has to be a middle ground somewhere there.
Definitely. That's certainly on our mind. I think just making sure that we're keeping track of those various things and helping us to understand how things are changing over time. Any other questions? Okay, I definitely appreciate that update, and if you guys can come back after that meeting, we'll have our February meeting, and we'd appreciate an
Sounds
update
good.
then.
Thank you so much.
We're moving quickly, just as we wanted to. Is that all the staff information items? Okay, so we'll move into committee reports. LaTanya, do you have a route committee report?
I do. I'm gonna do my best. My voice is kind of going out. All right, up first is talking about the signs. So if you have been out, there are some CAD signs that are actually being replaced with Go Raleigh signs. They're still working on that. They're also updating the text verbiage. So when instead of saying go live, go live is going to be say Go Raleigh. So I would say we should be completed by mid-spring. I'm gonna be optimistic, mid-spring. But the contractors are out there, so there's a lot of updates on that. So, OTP conversation. So that's basically, in the route committee, we've decided to, instead of just focusing on on-time performance, our major concern in the route committee, we want to have the discussion on how we can make improvements in the area with measurements so they can be met and have better performance and experience for our writers and operators and the entire organization. So looking at the metrics, we know some things are not on-time performance. So we say, how can we fix that? What are we looking at? So we looked at this is gonna be an ongoing conversation. But we're gonna be looking at some of the routes where timing could be better. Some of the discussions was talking about, is there enough supervisors in the organization? I was told that another supervisor was hired, but there may be some disconnect right there because we were also told there was not enough budgets for supervisors, but we can speak to that when RTP Dev come up there. But we were talking about creating zones, making sure that the supervisors can go out into certain areas versus being all over the place. So creating zones within Raleigh, say like North Raleigh, North Hills, or South Raleigh, or et cetera. We also talked about what are some of the challenges that some of the drivers see? And we also encourage that the drivers, when they can, to come to our meetings so we can have discussions about the routes, because we talked about some routes, and their input was greatly appreciated with one of the route changes that's coming up this year. So we definitely invited them to come back for that. But again, this is an ongoing topic, so we'll be bringing more conversations to that. Next up is some of the May changes, and I'll be make this brief a little bit, but there are a lot of changes coming in May 2025. For one is the 12 will be expanded to Avon Ferry to align with the L and also include late night trips. The 11L, which is the Buck Jones, will be moving to 45 minutes to align with transfers for the 11, if I got that right. The 4 Rex will be aligned with Edwards Mill Road and proceed to Crabtree Valley Mall. The 27 Blue Ridge will align to Trinity Road. The 26 Edwards Mill will be retired. But there are some changes to cover that area, so it's not completely uncovered. The 3 for Glass Clock will be moving to 30 minutes, adding early morning and evening trips. The biggest plus, I would say, for not just me, but the 18 Pool and Barwell will split from 18 to the 18L, which will have midday frequency from 30 minutes, which will connect to the 18, and the 18 will be timed for the 18. The 18L will be timed to transfer to the 18, which will proceed to New Hope Commons, which is also the Walmart area, which will be a future BRT route. And next up is the 7L. Carolina Pines will be moving to 30 minutes and extends to 12:30 a.m. night service. And then the last thing, the transit app, we talked about that. I advise everyone to check it out, to use it, but it is a great app. So that's another aspect tool that riders can use to let you know on-time performance, not performance, when the bus is available and timing-wise, so.
Thank you for sharing those, and I'll just let everyone know that we do have a chance to look at some of those routes as we go through the Title VI report here in a minute, so if we have specific questions. But we definitely thank the route committee for their diligence in going through I know we had multiple meetings where we looked at what those routes would be before getting implemented, and so thank you for all the work on that.
You're welcome. And it's available on board docs if you actually need to see the maps. So thank you to Melanie on that.
Do we have questions for route? Okay, then we're going to move into finance and policy. Since the chair, Linda Davis, is absent today, Christian Daniels, do you mind presenting?
Yeah, we have two action items that we have to address today. One is going to be the Title IX service equity analysis. The second will be the mobility management, or the MOU from CAMPA that we just heard a little bit about.
Yeah, staff provided documents on both of those two items earlier this week, and then I think we also shared those a couple of weeks ago, hoping that everyone had time to review those. We're glad to answer any questions. We do have the slides loaded, but since we have limited time, we weren't planning to go through those, but we can if needed.
I think we've moved fairly quickly. Would it be okay to just show the routes, so that way they're up there for everyone to see? And then, as she pulls that up, Mr. Walker, do you mind just talking about the
Andrew, go back.
Title VI findings?
Yeah. Stop right there. There. That's a good one. Okay. Yeah. So just to, we've reviewed a lot of these Title VI reports over the last year because we've had so many service changes and new implementations. But typically what we do is we evaluate changes in service for the specific areas for those routes that are changing, and then we compare those demographics to the system-wide totals. And for minority populations, if there is a 5% or more population in the area of that route that's being changed over the system-wide average, then it triggers a mitigation. In other words, we're impacting or creating a disparate impact on the minority populations for that specific route. The other demographic that we look at is the low-income population. And on the low-income population, you can only be 2.5% over what the system-wide average is. So the review process it determines first, is it a major or a minor change? And so minor changes do not require any additional review. And in this process, Route 12 and Route 27 changes were deemed minor, so they did not have to have any additional review. All of the other changes that Ms. Williams talked about, the 7L, 18L, 3, 4, 11, 11L, 18, and 18S, were considered major changes and had to be reviewed for those two demographics to determine if the mitigations would be triggered. Route 7L and 18L did not trigger any further mitigations, but routes 3, 4, 11, 11L, 18, and 18S did exceed that 5% or 2.5% trigger mark. So mitigations had to be discussed. And if you go to the next slide, I think we kind of list out whether it was a disparate impact or disproportionate burden on those specific routes. And the last column there talks about what the mitigation strategies were. So you can have a disproportionate burden and disparate impact on a route that is actually getting an improvement. For instance, Route 11 will remain exactly as it is today as far as how it's driven, but it becomes a high-frequency network service. It operates every 15 minutes. So in reality, even though it did trigger a disparate impact on the minority populations, they're receiving a much better level of service because it's going to every 15 minutes. So in almost all cases on these changes this round, the increases in service that are being made, increases in frequencies, or those become the actual mitigations themselves. I don't think we have the actual maps of route changes in this. They were included in the Title VI report that was attached in board docs. I'll be glad to try to talk through if you have a specific question on any of them.
I think this is really helpful. We've done a lot of these Title VI, and this is probably the one for the most routes at once
Right.
in a while. And the flow chart I found personally useful to understand what's going on, so hopefully it was useful to others. Do you guys have specific questions on either the report and the mitigations or on any specific route here? Okay, then I believe the action staff needs from us is that actually to
endorse the Title VI plan for the February and May changes.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to endorse the Title VI plan for the February and May changes.
Motion to endorse.
Looking for a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you all. And then we have another action item from Finance and Policy as well around the MOU for the mobility, that's a tongue twister, Mobility Management Program. And we've gotten presented actually about this a couple times, I think, as a body. Do folks have questions or want to see the slides for this one? Okay. So I think, again, the action here is to endorse the MOU agreement that I think will then go further into someone else's hands, like the city manager or city councilor or someone, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So we're just saying that,
Can you pull up that slide, Andrea?
thank you, so I can read it.
I think we actually kept the slide from the Finance and Policy, so go back one, Andrea. One more. That.
On the last slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
MOU.
Yeah, the last slide on the mobility management. My bad. That one.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're looking for an endorsement of the memorandum of understanding with Campo for the mobility management program. Mr. Leeks, you're the one with all the motions today, if you'd like to.
I motion to endorse the MOU.
I heard a motion and a second.
Motion second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thanks. The motion passes. Was there anything else in Finance and Policy?
We just continue to review our rules of conduct, and those are actively under review by our committee as well as the staff. So I think there'll be really more to talk on as we kind of go through it as time allows.
Okay, thank you. You guys had a busy agenda this month. Okay, we'll move to Marketing Committee. Chair of Marketing is also not here. Who from Marketing can give the report?
I was here, Byron. I was at the marketing report or meeting last week. First part, we started off. We were given some metrics based off of some of the clicks and different from social media clicks. Is that correct? And that overall, like initially, it looked like there might have been a downtake kind of over the holidays, but it's starting to go back up. And some of the traffic that's been coming in seems to be pretty good, and there's some good social media interaction and related to there's some new stuff. There was some new stuff related to I guess we'll get to that in the next part. But there was some new stuff related to social media about changing, doing the 50th anniversary, things like that. But there's been a good steady uptick with marketing engagement through the social media platforms. They also had a New Year commute. That was a new campaign that we kind of use. I think we've used it. It's going to be used through UMO. Is that correct? So the New Year commute. It's going to become like an annual campaign. We wanted to try something new in 2024. It's kind of similar to what they did with the Eventzy, when I don't think I was around for that one, but that's a kind of a new campaign about looking at who is writing. So there's going to be 3 writers that will be chosen as who has the highest writing ridership. Which will be just determined just based off of, from being able to track with UMO taps. So the 3 highest riders will win a prize. I'm not sure what the prize is yet. I don't think, have we determined that?
We're doing an AirPod, mini speaker, and another Apple gadget.
AirTag.
AirTag.
Thank you.
Yes, and so just going to it, I think it was a good idea because it's easy if people who are using either UMO through the app or with the card. You know, it's easy to just track how whoever's doing the most ridership. And I thought that was a good way to kind of present that and recognize some people and for riding. One of the next actions we had was they did the Hurricanes activation. They went to another Hurricanes game on January 4th, this time with scarves. The last time the toboggans or beanies, depending on where you're from in the country, but were a big hit. This time the scarves were also a very large, you know, they ran out pretty quickly. It does seem that when we do set up, it does seem when they do have marketing events at the Hurricanes game, there is a lot of engagement and a lot of interest. There was some talk about maybe trying to set up a QR code to allow people to interact while they're, you know, when they're at the station. But they seem to be doing a pretty good job there, and we're continuing to market with on the platform at it's not the PNC Arena anymore.
Lenovo.
The Lenovo Arena. But we do have, you know, that's going to continue throughout all events that occur at the Lenovo Arena. So, and it gives us, we also found that it's given us a good brand awareness. People are really liking it. There are a lot of people who are going there, they may not have known about Go Raleigh, but it's given a lot of brand awareness now. We also discussed they're doing the transit, the 50th birthday for Go Raleigh, or old school cat buses, for anybody who knows old school Raleigh. But that's been a big trend where apparently different buses are getting wrapped, and people can see a celebration of, you know, the cat buses. And it came out with a really nice design. So congrats to whoever designed that. It was really good. And it seems to be engaging people when people see it. It's almost like, hey, which bus is it going to be today? But they've been doing pretty good, and they're using the old retro logo. And I think you can go online to see which bus it is that day. Is that? Yes. So people can go and track to see which bus is going to have the old logo on it. But it's just kind of celebrating 50 years of public transit here in Raleigh. We also talked about the transit app, which is actually pretty good, like the way we're engaging with the transit app, because it can show all of the buses or routes that you may possibly have to connect with in kind of real time. And the guys, they were coming up when doing it's called Transit Royale, where if you're a Go Raleigh user, you don't have to pay for you get a kind of like a free membership to that app if you're using Go Raleigh. But I interacted with it. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal, and how you can see where each buses are, how much time it is, and that can kind of help gauge where you need to go to try to connect to any other buses in the city. And then they're tracking, because the old way you can only track within a mile, but now you can see all of the buses instead of just where your bus is within a mile. So that actually, I think, you know, promoting that and people using that app will actually kind of help improve either ridership or make sure people know which bird a bus is. But it's really good. I really enjoyed using that app. I went through it. And we're also in Apple, Google Maps, UMO, and Go Raleigh Live in order to track buses or to see where you can ride. And then we did do a Busopoly update. It was leaning into the 50-year celebration. And we didn't have, I don't think we had any action items. I don't recall any. No. So, but we think we have they're doing really, really good work with marketing and all of the different things and activities going through. And then we're going to have a discussion coming up about possible budgetary things for the next quarter.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the work marketing is doing. Obviously, a lot of stuff going on with the 50-year anniversary this year. Maybe we can talk more about other things we're doing to celebrate at our retreat next month. It would be a fun thing to talk through as a body. But really excited to see so much good campaigns, and brand awareness at the Lenovo Center is really important. I think all the time we hear from people that ride all the time and also people that have no idea that we have buses. And it's great to see us bringing people into the middle ground on that. I'm like, oh, we do have buses and they do go places I might want to go. Really appreciate the work. Any questions for marketing? Okay. We have general manager's report. Who from RITP Dev is here today? Glad to have you. Happy New Year.
While Tanya's walking up, I just want to make a quick clarification on the 50th anniversary. So Capital Area Transit has been around for a long, long time, much more than 50 years. The 50 years is under the City of Raleigh ownership and management. Prior to the city taking it over, it was operated by the public utilities.
So is that the 50-year anniversary for this body as well?
Very well could be.
Okay. On the spot, we thought of that. Very cool. Well, let's talk more on the retreat. That'll be fun to discuss the history lesson.
I will say that the operators are really excited to drive that bus. Rose drove it yesterday, and she was talking about all of the interaction that she had with the customers and all of the conversations that were generated based on that bus. So they love driving it. So what I'm going to do is just give a quick update on headcount, on-time performance, and missed trips. And then Michael Bowen, our security director, is going to come up and give an update on security. In terms of headcount, we currently have 222 active operators. We have 9 additional operators that are still on leave of some sort, whether it be workers' comp or FMLA. And we have 10 individuals in training. So because of the service increases that we have planned for next month in May and all of the additional ones, we've been taking what we consider to be an aggressive approach to recruiting and retention. So tomorrow we have a job fair on site. We're also attending another job fair, 2 job fairs next week on Tuesday. We've implemented a new program called the Eaglet program, and with that, we're hiring individuals that don't have a CDL or permit, and so they go through a 3-day training where they're taught what is needed in order to get that certification, and then they have up to 30 days to actually get it. The goal is for them to get it within 2 days and then start the next training class with all the other individuals that are credentialed. In terms of retention, we've implemented a retention bonus. Once the individual gets out of the training class, then 6 months, there's another bucket, $500 increments, and then after 1 year, it's $1,500. We've also put together a mentorship program that's in coordination with the union. It's a 8-member committee, and we select different mentors to work with new hires for up to 12 months. And at no point will the mentor have more than 10 mentees in order to provide mentorship to. That's the first step in terms of us also getting an apprenticeship program. So we want to start with the mentorship and then move forward with an apprenticeship program. So that's what we're doing in terms of recruiting and retention at this time. You got a question?
I just didn't catch the number of drivers, so do you mind repeating it?
Yeah, 222 that are active and can drive every day. There are 9 additional operators that are out on some sort of leave, and then there are 10 that we have in training. And our goal is to have a training class every Monday, and we do have one. Sometimes it's not as successful as we like. We typically have at least 10 individuals identified to start on Monday, but we've been seeing where there's only been like 4 or 5 actually showing up. So we have reached out also to our corporate team to provide us with some additional assistance in terms of recruiting. So hopefully that can generate more interest in the position. And we've also done some things internally, some stay surveys, some pulse surveys to figure out, is there any reason why people are leaving, going to other systems, or what can we do to make, Go Raleigh the premier agency to work, in which we think we are. So that's what we're doing in terms of recruiting and retention. In terms of on-time performance, in addition to all of the things that were discussed earlier, the planning team has helped us with reviewing the reports, and we have identified that there are some discrepancies and inaccuracies in the report. We actually think our on-time performance is higher, so we're working with clever devices to identify some of those stops that we see that there are issues so we can have it corrected going forward. Missed trips, we had about, I think, 380 back in November. Thus far, today, we had 160. 42 of those trips that were missed were during the inclement weather on Friday and Saturday. So, any questions about anything I've said thus far?
Do you have an estimation of how many people that you hired for 2024 and how many are still working, driving with the bus drivers?
Yeah, I think we ended up with a 42% turnover rate in 2024. And some of that is, hiring. What we're finding is that most of the people that we employ, the new hires, are new to transit. They may not be new to driving, but they're new to transit. And sometimes it's just not what they signed up for. They're not driving by themselves in a delivery truck or 18-wheeler. They're actually having to interact with passengers, and it's not always the right fit. So the one other thing that we've done is we've implemented an assessment tool at hiring to see that the operator is actually a good fit for the position. So we use a third-party vendor to come up with this assessment, so that's also a part of the application process.
Thank you.
Michael? Unless you have other questions.
One last question. What's the total number of supervisors you have?
10.
Okay.
And, and we are fully staffed now. We did hire 2 additional ones to get us back to being fully staffed, and they're currently completing their training.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Definitely appreciate your team coming to the committee meetings as well, especially on things like on-time performance. They're things we jointly care about for our operators and our passengers. So appreciate working out things on operations, things on routes, things on software, all of it to work together.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that we spoke to the union, so either the union president or the secretary will also be attending those route committee meetings going forward.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
And Happy New Year to all of you guys as well. Glad to be back, and I apologize for missing last November. Had some personal things that I was dealing with. When you have a mom who's aging and you have to get the siblings together to get that synergy so that way you can make sure that she's okay, because she has spent most of her life taking care of us, and we need to take care of her. So as far as what I have for you today, because of what I'm doing, looking for in February to give you a year-end report, I've been doing some de-escalation training. I've done maybe 25 sessions already, and it's really taken hold to a lot of the operators, and they're realizing how valuable and important it is. And so that training is what I has deemed the foundational training for us. It's phase 1, which I give them a whole lot of information, because the next phase, which will start in spring and summer, will be phase 2, which is de-escalating me. Because what we realize is that if we don't do enough to make sure that we're empowering our operators to give them the tools to make sure that they are producing in themselves a good product, then how can we have the expectation that when they're out there working and they're transporting people from one place to another, that they're giving them what we expect, which is a high caliber and an excellent type service. So that'll be coming in the spring, summer, as I'm creating that. But also, there are things that I think when you talk about the union and things that I've been hearing and things that I've been witnessing, they have some concerns. And some of those concerns are how we are doing our service when it comes to keeping them safe. And some of that safety involves looking at transit differently. What I know, having over 2 decades of law enforcement experience and being from a regular patrol officer to a detective, to a community police officer, to a supervisor, is that police work is not broad brushing. It's not monolithic. And I say that because transit policing is a little different. It's slightly different because it's mobile, because people, they come to Go Raleigh Station and then they move, and then you pick people up from these bus stops and they get on with their problems. And some people, when they get on, they're already in crises. They're already, experiencing life, and then the operators are asked to make sure that they're able to transport them from point A to point B and do it effectively, and making sure that they keep themselves safe as well. So what I'm looking to do as well is be able to present to you what that looks like going forward in the future. I'm excited about a lot of the transportation planning that I see, but I also know that with that planning and with that implementation, you have to have safety. You've got to keep people safe. You got to make sure that you're thinking about if someone is riding, if they're using BRT, if they're on the corridor on I-40, or wherever they are, that you can get the service when it comes to law enforcement quick, fast, in a hurry, without a wait or downtime. So I'm looking to make sure that as I'm writing this up, and I'm writing this up well, that you see my recommendations for as we go forward. Now, with that said, and I don't want to tax your time, I do have, that's here with us today, Capitol Special Police. Captain Bailey is here with some of his people who can really talk about some of the strategies that they use at Go Raleigh Station, because they have been who we have leaned on outside of RPD. We know RPD is stretched thin, and knowing that when they do respond, they respond and they assist those guys, or vice versa. So if there's questions about how we do it and why we do it, I think Captain Bailey and his people, if you want to ask some questions, can answer your question.
Thank you for your time. We look forward to your larger report and recommendations, so we can continue the work. At the last retreat, we talked about focusing on the fundamentals, and safety is one of those fundamentals. We have about 4 minutes before we're supposed to leave this room. So if the captain would like to come up and talk briefly, we'd certainly entertain that. And I know that myself and probably several other board members would appreciate talking to you in the lobby after they kick us out of the room as well.
Is there anything, Captain, you would like to add about the strategies that you guys use down at Go Raleigh Station? Yeah, please.
Coming up to the mic. This will be a good way to close out our meeting. Thank you for the work that you've been doing. We know that it's not easy work, and we appreciate it.
Good afternoon. Like Mr. Ballin said, I'm Captain Bailey. I'm part of Capitol Special Police and Patrol. We provide the officers at the Go Raleigh bus station. Some of the tactics that we've used is, one, the de-escalation. Doing our very best to try to de-escalate any issues that are down there. Are we able to do it all the time? We do our very best, but there are circumstances where the people that we're dealing with just don't want to listen to what we have to say, and then we have to contact Raleigh PD to step in and assist us. And they've been great with us, working with us. I think we've done a good job with my supervisors, Sergeant Rosario and Corporal Hines, doing a great job to collaborate with Raleigh PD. We will continue to do the job that we've been given and de-escalate situations the best way we can, and hopefully move forward and make the Go Raleigh Station a better place, a better environment for the public to come in and be able to ride the transit system.
Thank you. Again, we appreciate your work. I know I have a couple questions to follow up after the meeting, and we appreciate you coming today. I'm sorry that our meeting time is brief, where we do them all up here at the front of the room. Do we have anything else, David? I think that was everything I saw on the agenda. Okay, I'll just ask for concluding remarks from the authority members. Awesome. Thank you guys for helping us keep to our schedule. I'll adjourn today's RTA meeting at 4:44 p.m.